there, my name's Gill Tiney. I'm from Collaboration Global, and this is our podcast, Being Human, Hidden Depths. I'm going to be interviewing some of our members from Collaboration Global, and they're going to be sharing with you their extraordinary lives. Although they would probably believe they're just normal, everyday, average humans, but they are extraordinary. A bit like you and me. We all have our story to tell. We've all been through difficult times, and we've come out the other end having learned an extraordinary amount about ourselves that we can share with others. So I think you'll find lots of things that will resonate with where you've been in your journey as well. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Hello and welcome to Being Human Hidden Depths, the podcast by Collaboration Global. And my name is Gill Tiney, the founder of Collaboration Global. And today I'm delighted that one of our members has joined us for a podcast because I believe we've got two for the price of one today. Welcome, Tana Macpherson-Smith. Who have you brought along with you this afternoon?
We're being gate crashed by Bert, and Bert is a symbol of everything that I do and everything that I teach. And he's never been on a podcast, but he's a very important part of what I do. And I just thought for a change, well, actually, he thought for a change that he'd like to be a part of this.
I hope he's not going to be interrupting you when you're saying something important. I don't mind.
Not that you can hear. He will in my ear, but not that you can hear.
I love it. It's interesting because when you talk about your book, and it's about the monkey, Bert, sitting on your shoulder, I remember back in the day when I was first starting out in business, there was a lovely book about people having a monkey on their shoulder, which was represented as somebody coming up to you in your business and going, I've got a bit of a problem. And then the reference is that the monkey is half on your shoulder. And by the time you've helped them with their problem and ended up you taking, oh, don't worry, I'll sort it out. You've got the monkey firmly on your back and you can't get rid of it because you've got to go and deal with somebody else's problems. And the whole book, I can't remember what the book was called now. I should really check it out. It was all about getting rid of other people's problems and helping them to be empowered to solve their own problems, finding ways of doing it themselves rather than allowing yourself to become the boss that everybody runs to, which can be quite exhausting. So how did Bert become the subject of your book? Well, first of all, tell us what the book's about. That's probably the best place to start.
So There's a Monkey on Your Shoulder was written for teenagers, but intentionally for every adult that ever was a teenager.
Yeah.
And the reason I wrote it is because my absolute passion and direction is helping children, teenagers, young adults to step out of whatever situation they're in, to understand about their emotional well-being and about their mental health and how they came to be the people that they are and how to step into the people that we know that they are, but they may not be able to see. The idea for the book came to me literally on 2 train journeys. I was sitting on a train with my husband. We were unusually going into London in the middle of the day. The train was empty, bar one woman who was sitting in front of us, avidly reading a children's book. And a bit ashamed to say that my first thought was, gosh, is that her reading age? Is that whatever? And then I thought, how could you even think that? And so what? But she was so engaged. I thought she really knows. I'm sure she knows the author. And then literally I had this sensation of, it sounds really weird, but I had the sensation of kind of through the window and just this downloading of this idea that I had to write this book about there being a monkey on the shoulder and about 8 teenagers who each has a monkey on their shoulder that is basically the metaphor for their subconscious thoughts and behaviours. And I turned to my husband and said, I've got to write a book about 8 teenagers who've got monkeys on their shoulders and they've got to learn about why they have having the mental health struggles they've got. And he went, good luck with that.
I guess he's used to you having these downloads, is he?
Yes.
Here we go again.
All the time. and I grappled with it on and off for a year. I was really busy in work and couldn't work out what I was doing with it. And then I was exhausted on another trip going into London for a big event in London. And I got the last seat and it was packed. And I thought, if I don't meditate or do something now, I'm going to fall off the planet by the time I get there. Closed my eyes and literally it just went and all of the characters and how they integrated kind of dropped into place. And by the time I got off the train, I was in such an elevated vibration and energy. And I walked into this big event just literally on expanded and on fire. It felt incredible.
Wow.
It then still took me a long time to finish the book,
Yeah.
but it was done and actually published almost exactly a year ago.
Wow. Cool.
Um,
I
and
love
yeah,
that. I mean, how many people can say that, that's the experience of them writing a book? Quite often it's their lifetime's work that's painstakingly pulled out of their brain, either by somebody else or, done themselves. But to have it downloaded in that way, I love the fact. And funny enough, I've got a novel in my head it was a dream. And as I woke up, I went, right, I've got to write this. So I've got the plan done, but I've never actually done it. Maybe I need to have another train journey or have another dream to get the last bits of it all put together. So I still don't know how it ends, but I've got everything else up to the last
then
chapter.
you just need to start it.
Yeah,
Because
but
the end will. I didn't have, the ending. I didn't know where it would twist and go. I just knew what the core was, and the rest unraveled as I
brilliant.
started to write.
I love that whole idea of having something downloaded to you. But this download wasn't like you having a day job, in the local supermarket and you going, oh, well, mental health. Yes, people need to know about that. I'll write a book about it. It's actually coming from your experiences, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
heart
tell
and
us
soul.
a little bit about the story of how you've lived a life that has led you to this point now where you are.
Okay. So I think probably the starting point is that I was a teacher. I fell into teaching when I was 29. I was in the city prior to that, fell into teaching and felt like I'd come home. I
Oh,
mean, I've always worked with children all the way through. Even when I was at school, I was running clubs for younger kids. And
mm,
then I helped to supervise youth clubs through university. But I fell into teaching at the age of 29 and loved it and became a house mistress, which I loved. So my husband and I lived with between 30 and 60 and 80
gosh.
teenage girls for 12 years of our life in education. And everything I did was actually ideas that came to me in the middle of the night going, I need to create this event to help whoever in the school
Oh,
to step out of the shadows and into their own light and know what they're capable of and to be seen by other people. I didn't know until a few years ago that that was me subconsciously doing what I never had. In other
oh,
words, helping, seeing teenagers, really seeing them and making them feel seen and heard.
mm,
It wasn't until much later that I realized the driving force for that was my own belief that I'm invisible, which is a long, long reaching belief from childhood. And that really, I've unpicked the layers of me and who I am in such minute detail, and I will continue to do it forever to help me to understand better everybody else.
mm,
But if I go right back to my childhood, my mom was told when she was 14 weeks pregnant with me that she'd acquired an autoimmune illness that meant that she was going to become completely paralyzed and
mm.
that it was terminal.
Wow.
And she already had two toddlers. So you can imagine the devastation of having two children, one on the way, and you're told your life is going to end. And it's tragic at any time, but we're talking in the early 1960s when there was so little support. In fact, my whole family moved back from Africa to be in the UK while she was pregnant so that she could have some form of care.
That's amazing.
She was quadriplegic by the time I was 2, and she died just before my 8th birthday.
Oh, Tana.
And I never felt that I could express how I felt.
Mm,
Not because nobody was caring and kind, far from it, but I kept being told, Dad's been through enough. Don't let him see how sad you are. I
yeah.
buried everything,
Yeah.
and I buried it really deep. And the invisibility came from the fact that in those early years, I never showed what it actually felt to have a mum that never hugged you and that never spoke to you, that didn't have a voice,
Gosh.
etc.
Yeah.
When I was at secondary school, though, having not expressed to anybody externally the devastation of her death, although I'd cried every night for months in my bedroom, in my
Mm,
bed,
mm,
I wrote essays after essay at school about abandonment and loneliness and grief. And I
mm.
got A star for every essay and incredible emotive descriptive writing. Woohoo! But
Yeah.
not one teacher took me aside and said, actually, Tana, are you okay?
You're joking. Whoa.
So I didn't, obviously understand that at the time. It's only
No.
in previous years that I've come to recognize the impact of that. And then now with amusement to notice this monkey on my shoulder that
Mm,
points out the evidence that I'm invisible, even now as an adult.
mm,
Now I can laugh about it and go, okay, there's me being invisible again. But I lived a lifetime with it just being part of who I am.
yeah.
So I put my hand up in lectures and people would say, anybody else got a question? I'd have my hand up right at the front and they'd go, no, okay, moving on. And it's like,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
um,
That feels familiar actually. That really
yeah,
feels familiar. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
it's a difficult one, but
Hmm.
understanding it has made such a difference. And just moving forward again, 25 years of teaching, I then had a massive breakdown very unexpectedly, and it was triggered literally by the passing of an ambulance in the early hours of the
Oh,
morning. I'd
wow.
just come back from a yoga class because I was trying to dispel anger that I was feeling, and anger's an emotion that I've never allowed myself to really
Yeah.
feel, that
Yeah.
I've always buried that. But because I'd had major surgery unexpectedly and then another operation and then got back to work too soon, anger over certain things that had happened in my life started to come to the surface.
Right.
Went to a yoga class. On the way back, an ambulance coming towards me suddenly set on its sirens and its lights and shot past me to rescue someone.
Yeah.
And as if someone had flicked a switch, I literally put my foot on the accelerator and I was doing 85, 90 miles an hour looking for a tree on the side of the road.
Oh gosh.
Um, it was not about suicide. It never happened, never felt suicidal. I'm, really grateful to say. But what was in my head was the monkey saying, if you're injured so badly that you're in intensive care, then they will know the damage they've done. And they could be a number of people. I've got a pretty strong idea of exactly which people I was thinking of, but it goes from the teachers not noticing to um, people who have sexual predation I'd had from the age of 5 all the way through my life to
Mm.
8 years of emotional abuse from someone not in the family at all, and probably more importantly, the people who knew it was going on and did nothing about it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Um, what happened was the last thing I remember was seeing a tree trunk arriving in the windscreen very fast, like,
gosh.
and going through the sensation of having a head-on collision with the tree in slow motion, and then being blanketed and kind of waiting for the ambulance to rescue me.
Yeah.
The reality was when I came to that despite the tree being there, I hadn't hit the tree.
Wow.
Something had happened that stopped it. I was about 200 meters down the road, having clearly spun the car,
Mm.
totally unharmed physically, but emotionally absolutely destroyed.
Mm.
And I can remember thinking at the time, if I'd hit the tree, I wouldn't have been in intensive care, I'd have been in a coffin,
Yeah.
and that clearly it wasn't my time.
Yes.
What resulted of that was I was taken into a London psychiatric hospital for 3 days of assessment, and I didn't come out for 6 months.
Well, gosh.
So it changed everything and desperately, sadly, brought my teaching career to a very sudden halt because after the 6 months, I didn't feel able to go back into the level of commitment,
No.
24/7 duty,
No.
100-hour weeks. And so that was another bereavement. Lost my family home, lost my income, but more importantly, lost that connection with those young people who I adored, and we were family, and I was a house mistress. And so it was really devastating.
And yet, what? How long ago was this?
It was in 2013.
Not a million years ago. I wonder nowadays, with more awareness generally around mental ill health, I wonder whether had they been able to support you better to enable you to go back into that role at some point, because they lost their hell of an asset, didn't they? And just because your mental health for a little while isn't the strongest ever, I wonder whether it would have been better for you if they'd been able to find a way to, short term, do Monday mornings, do Friday afternoons, or something like that, just so you still had access to things that gave you joy, which is
I
the
think it would have been better at the time,
Mm,
but if I'd done that, I would never have taken the steps to what happened next
no, that's
and
true.
to what I'm now doing.
Yeah.
And whilst I honestly would not have wanted to live through all the things that led to that moment,
Hmm.
I can hand on heart say I wouldn't have missed the experience for all the world. I mean, those 6 months were the most traumatic, hard work ever, but they were also the most extraordinary thing that I
Mm,
could have gone through. And I wouldn't have missed it for the world because it's stirred something in me. I wanted to understand how so many ordinary people like me could end up in a place like that with such severe mental health problems.
Mm.
And because my natural thing is talking to people and getting them to open up, I pulled threads on everybody and I got told off every day. Stop paying attention to everyone else and put
What?
the attention on you.
Um,
But I wanted to know why they were there. And always it went back to childhood. And I'm not talking about, it was obvious that some people had major trauma in their lives and you could totally understand it. But for others, they were just ordinary folk doing their work, or retired people or teachers or people getting divorced or whatever. Why had they ended up in a psychiatric hospital when other people cope? And I
mm,
pulled threads and I kept just seeing this pattern of childhood things, small incremental things that had grown
mm,
and created a person who was more vulnerable in one way, or responded to the world angrily, or was
yeah,
very shy, or had no self-confidence or self-belief. And I just made a decision once I'd come out that I really wanted to understand what this was and how we could bring a stop to this mental health crisis that we have. And over the 25 years of teaching, the disintegration of mental health of the pupils was really significant, and I wanted to find answers. And that launched the most extraordinary journey I've spent the last 12 years
mm,
exploring, reading, training, talking to thousands of young people, children, grown-ups, trying to find out what makes them tick and where it started. And I've been unraveling myself in minute detail because by understanding me better and by trialing lots and lots of different therapies to understand how they work, I've got a really passionate understanding of what I think the solution is to the mental health
brilliant.
crisis that we have. And now my mission is to get people to understand that, because actually it doesn't cost anything, but it, I believe, could really make a difference.
Yeah. I think at the moment we are floundering as far as mental health is concerned because everyone seems to be talking about it, and the NHS tells us there are thousands of people registered for stress or anxiety or all sorts of undiagnosed conditions. And yet, I don't think we really have a good idea of what good mental health looks like. So we're all kind of feeling we're scrabbling around and doing our best not to be stressed and not to go here and not to do that and not to reflect. And we know that we kind of have to do work on ourselves, but understanding how to do that is a bit of a blank page because we've not experienced that in our lifetime. We haven't had somebody at school say, if you're feeling this and this, then this and this will help you. And this isn't a great feeling to have, but if you want to feel joy and contentment or compassion or whatever the other beautiful feelings are that give us our value in life, it's almost like it's ethereal. You can't touch it, you can't see it. So how are you going to learn how to be that?
Mhm.
Um, so one of the things I love about you, Tana, is that you are having gone through this horrible, horrible experience. You have learned so much from it, but now you are so determined to not prevent anybody going through some of this stuff because, as you say, some of it has been amazing or painful, though it was to go through, but you've learned so much as a result of it. But it's the prevention side that you're looking at. You're not going, if you've got a problem, I'll come and fix you. You're going, what if we went into schools and we did this? Or if young people had access to that? So explain your thought process and what exactly in an ideal world would you love to see happen?
So what you said is absolutely right about, getting to a younger age and saying, if you want to feel like this, do this. But actually, for me, it starts way back before that. It's
Mm-hmm.
not a case of teaching them as teenagers, here's the tools to feel better. For me, it's about preventing it, the pathway to poor mental health
Mm,
starting in first place.
mm,
So what I really want is, and this is where, people say, you've got a niche, you've got a niche. Who is my audience? Yes, my audience is parents. Yes, it's definitely teachers, but actually in reality, it's every single person who has anything ever to do with children at
mm-hmm.
any age.
Yeah.
It's people who want to be parents. So they know beforehand what we're doing wrong, that we could be doing better. It is shopkeepers and bus keepers, it's taxi drivers, it's kids in the playground, it's literally everybody. Because for me, The starting point is transforming the life experiences of children from the minute they're conceived, not
Yeah.
just from birth. Because the way that I teach it is this, and this is why Bert is so important, is that I see everybody as it's the easiest way I can explain it really, is that I see everyone as a tapestry. So I'll say to children, and I say to you, I see you as the outline of Jill,
Hmm.
but you are filled with thousands of threads like stitches. And when I stand far enough away from you, I can see the whole beautiful person that you are. We're all born with an inner monkey,
Yeah.
stays with us and is assigned to us and lives with us for the whole of our lives. And their key role really is to keep us safe, but they're very misguided. And the monkeys each have a bag of crayons. So every single time you have an emotional response to anything, from
Mm.
the moment you're conceived, because we have emotional responses inside the womb as well,
Mm.
the monkey colors one of your threads with a color that represents that emotion. So you might have a really lovely childhood with lots of great moments of excitement and joy and love and appreciation and growth and pride and all those things, and lots of lovely bold color threads. But you may also have major trauma that could mean a lot of your threads are colored badly. My interest is less in major trauma and more in what I call little t traumas, which are the emotional responses to everyday occurrences in life, everyday comments, everyday emotional responses to you from other people that
Mm.
build a picture.
Yeah.
So, very quick examples: a baby that's left to cry a lot, loving family, just very busy. And I'll say to children, how does that make the baby feel if it's just left to cry a lot? And you can hear there's family out there, but no one's coming. And
Mm.
it's all sad or not important or not loved. What colour's that? Let's say it's dark blue. And it happens a few times, quite a few times. So there's a few colored threads coloured in.
Mm.
And this is all about creating your personal tapestry. So that child is potty trained and there's a major Christmas party and everyone's having a lovely time. And he suddenly realizes he needs the potty, doesn't know where it is, and he's pulling on shirt tails and everyone's too busy until he wets his trousers. And then everyone's like, why didn't you tell us? And the
Yeah.
monkey's going, we freaking tried.
Yeah.
How does it make him feel? Not
Mm.
seen, not important. It's another color, blue color. Perhaps going to nursery, they come running out as kids do to see their family member or whoever's picking them up. And perhaps that person is like so many, unfortunately, and is like this. I'll be
Mm.
with you in a minute, sweetheart. I've just got to finish this phone, somebody at work. I've got to talk to someone's mum.
Hmm.
It's the same feeling. Now, these are not things that you're going to remember as an adult, but your monkey has made a record. And
Mm.
when you then get into the playground and you're the last person to be chosen for a team,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
the same feeling. It's another blue color. Or someone says to you, a teacher says, that's a really lovely drawing you've done, but have you seen how Freddie's done his? So you get a compliment and then it gets taken away
Yeah.
because there's a comparison.
Yeah. Of
It's a color. And the thing is that these can be really innocuous for the person giving them.
course. Yeah.
But actually, when you get a big enough patch of one color, it creates a limiting belief, which is really strongly embedded. And for that child, it might be, I'm not important enough, I'm not good enough, I'm invisible, whatever. And then the monkey will spend the rest of its life, A, pointing out the evidence to prove that that's true, and B, trying to direct your behaviors to avoid the pain of that happening.
Yes. Yeah.
So a child that's been called names all the way through primary school, or the child that's been bullied in primary school, the monkey wants to protect it from being bullied at secondary school. Two options, really obvious ones. Let's grow your hair long over your face, create some curtains, let's
Mhm.
dress you in big baggy clothes and shrink you in here with your body language in the hope that no one's going to notice you enough to want to bully you. Or he might say, right, stand up tall, let's go and get some muscles, let's face the world with anger and we'll be the bully so no one can hurt us.
Yeah.
So a lot of our behaviors are directed by the monkey, but also whether we are likely to respond to other people, whether we're triggered by certain people, by other people's behaviors, as children, teenagers, in the workplace, as parents, as adults of any kind, is all founded in how our tapestry was created by the monkey, by our early experiences.
Mm.
If we could transform the way we speak to, if people really understood that every single thing that a child hears said to them about
Hmm.
them, or even in their earshot, that might be about a work colleague, but they think is about them, will colour something on the tapestry,
Mm.
and it lays beliefs and feelings that we can't understand. You know, how did our kid come to be so insecure or to be so
Mm.
self-loathing?
Mm.
But we're really at the heart of it, whether we're kids in the playground. And I don't think people understand the true impact of name calling at school.
No.
And I mean, I have hundreds of clients who come through, and people I speak to as adults who can name things that were said to them. Parents saying, "You got 97%. What happened to the other three?" Or you got 10 out of 10 for spelling. Why not 11 in a joke? But
Yeah.
the child
Yep.
doesn't hear the joke. They hear that I'm still not good enough.
Yeah.
And do you know that for me is really the heart of all of this, that if we understood this well enough, and if we were teaching the positive mindset work that I do with kids from nursery right the way through, so that children were absolutely stating, I can read, I can do this, I am awesome, the transition would, the resilience would be embedded from a very early age.
Yeah.
That's really, that's my journey. That's what I'm here to do.
You know what? I don't think I've ever had that explained in such a beautiful and clear way. I think there's everybody listening now can identify with those threads being coloured in. That's just such a beautiful way of doing it, and we've all had those experiences. I remember coming downstairs at the age of 16, going to my first office Christmas party, and I went into the kitchen and I was like, "Da-da!" And my mum
Yeah.
said, "Well, who's going to be looking at you anyway?" And I know she was joking,
Yeah.
but I was kind of nervous about going. I didn't particularly want to go, but everyone was like the dumb thing, you had to go. So I wanted to fit in.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden I'm leaving the front door going, I better shrink myself so nobody looks at me because, mum thinks nobody's going to look at me anyway. And that stayed with me for a long time. And I forgive her, obviously. She thought it was funny.
Yep.
But it hit that nerve, and that invisibility thing that you were talking about, it kind of was another in the thing. And it does shape us, and it does shape whether you're going to be that Mr. Angry or Mrs. Quiet or whatever you choose, because it is about choosing, isn't it? We feel like stuff is done to us, but even when things are done to us, we still get to choose whether we accept them or not, or how we create ourselves going further forward. And we're the ones that have created that. So to have that image and that picture painted, that that monkey is colouring in for us, and again letting children know that these things are happening. So if you've wet yourself, or if you've done this, or if you've done that, it doesn't have to colour the rest of your life. You can choose to let it go, or erase that colour and change that colour and make it something different. I think it's so this book is already out. Have you got a copy of it in front of you where you can wave the beautiful
I have.
cover? Look at that. There's a monkey on your shoulder. I understand the blue now, the colouring in with the blue is exactly that. When bad things happen,
Mm.
those colours, the pinks and the joyful colours, the yellows are disappearing fast, aren't they?
Mm.
Yeah, I had a similar experience to you, not as drastic, but when I was 10, my mum was in hospital for the best part of a year. And we were kind of expecting that she wasn't going to survive. We were never allowed to tell anyone about it. It's nobody else's business but ours. Don't tell the teacher. Don't you dare tell the teacher. And now as an adult, you look and you go, well, my dad was bringing up two daughters, going backwards and forwards to his wife in hospital who might not survive. The authorities might have come and been nosy and had a little look around and see what was going on. And that was what was don't tell anyone and they won't have to know, so you won't get taken away from mummy and daddy.
Wow.
And that kind of stayed with us for a while, me and my sister. Unfortunately, my mum did survive, and she only had side effects, but she had meningitis that she had to learn to walk again, and etc. etc.
Wow.
It
Yeah.
was a tough time for that period. But at 10 years of age, it's very impressionable, and exactly the same as you carry that weight with you for a long time until somebody identifies, you've got to be a good girl, you've got to be quiet, you've got to clear up after you can't make a mess, you can't cry, all those kind of things. So, and I don't think there's a child on this planet that wouldn't understand that picture that you've just painted there about how they can be in charge of be in control of their emotions because of how they see themselves and how it's affected them.
It's interesting when you pull the threads too, and it doesn't matter where I'm working with 5-year-olds or 15 or 25-year-olds.
Yeah.
You start pulling threads and you explain the story. I mean, I had a moment with a 16-year-old boy last night, and yeah, I just said something, and he went, "Oh my God, that
Mm.
makes so much sense." And I was talking about how easily it is, and I'm guilty of this too, of over-validating children, little children, when they with each milestone, you're like, "Oh my God, you're running now, not walking," like, "Oh, you're running really fast, you're doing really well," and they become so addicted to the validation, so that when somebody runs past them faster, it's crushing. And
Mm.
I was saying this to him, and he went, oh my goodness. He said, I was always really good at sport. I was really capable at school. And I had so much, applause and well done. And and I heard people talking about how good it was. And then suddenly I got to the point where clearly I didn't need that anymore in sort of year 9.
Mm.
And there were other kids who needed more attention. And suddenly that dropped off. And I just never feel I'm good enough anymore.
Mm.
And it never occurred to him it's because that's not forthcoming anymore, that he's feeling he's a failure when he's exactly the same person with all the same skills and talents and things. But it was that absolute aha moment for him last night. We went, oh
Mm.
my God. And now he recognizes that we can start working and unraveling that and changing his thinking to step out of that belief.
And then you've got to think about all the things that you say to young people that could have that damaging effect. I mean, one of the things my 3-year-old granddaughter, she says, always gorgeous Nanny G coming. I'm Nanny G. And I get there and she's like, hello, gorgeous Nanny G. And hello, gorgeous Lila. And she says, no, you're gorgeous. I went, no, you're gorgeous. And oh, we're both gorgeous, and that kind of thing. And it's like, is that okay?
And
you,
that's the thing. That's the difficulty. And all of this, when I go and I do all my workshops and presentations and I speak, it's not about pointing fingers and blame.
no,
Because
no.
we're all doing our best in whatever level that is. 99% of us are really doing our best.
Mm.
But the more aware we are, you start to realize the little things that we say, the put downs that as teachers, and I have seen some awful cases of put downs in the teaching world where they've made comments or compared and literally, you've got a classroom, as an example, a classroom of kids, a whole class, and there's 3 or 4 that are doing zero work, couldn't care less. And the teacher's talking to that lot and just walks in and goes, "You've got your GCSEs, you're not working hard enough, none of you are doing enough. If you don't do more, you're never going to be anything, you're never going to get anywhere." And there's kids in the class that are doing everything. They're working as hard as they can, but that message has gone to them. It may be intended for 3 or 4, but they've taken it on
Mm.
board,
Mm.
and nothing they can do is enough. So the anxiety, the stress takes off, and it you just don't realize the damage. And a
Mm.
parent I had to call in for their daughter was raging and in floods of tears because they'd had an argument on the way to see me. The daughter had sworn, and the mum had said, "If your grandmother could hear you now, she'd turn in her grave."
Oh, you can't do
And
that.
grandmother had been her soulmate and had died when she
Yeah.
was 8. And what 8-year-old understands what death means? They're suddenly not there anymore. And mum said this quite often. If she was doing something wrong or talking, she'd say, if Granny knew what you were like now, knew what you were doing. And she said she doesn't understand. Every time she says that, she's taken off all the scabs that I've
Mm.
been trying to heal, and she's opened the wound, and I'm missing her again. And
Yeah.
I brought mum in and said, "Look, I need to explain. I know, I'm sure it's unintentional. It's a throwaway comment." Mum was just aghast. She was horrified at the impact that it was having. And she said, "I never meant it like that." I said, "Of
Mm.
course you didn't.
No.
You weren't doing it to her, but this is the reality of how things are received." And that's where we have to be more mindful. And if we could put the focus on prevention by helping people to really understand this, we would have more resilient kids, which would give us better mental health in future generations.
Yeah. And also, I think we all have to understand it's like hurt people hurt people. And although that mother hadn't intended to hurt that daughter, she also was hurting for the loss of her mother. So she wanted that daughter to go, your nan might be gone, but she still has an influence on our lives
Yeah.
and she's still part of this family. But the way she did it was just a throwaway, old fashioned comment of
Yeah.
turning your grave. And so we all have to be educated about Words are powerful. Words are so powerful and should not ever be taken lightly.
Yeah. So that's the mission, is to help people, is to find the best way to get as many people to understand this, and for us
Mm,
to be, the other thing that's really, really key in all this is the impact of retained primitive reflexes, which is more known about, but still the vast majority of parents and teachers and so on are really not aware of
mm,
what they are. And I've
mm,
been working with them for almost 30, oh, well over 30 years, when it first was kind of introduced into the UK. And basically, as we're developing, our nervous system has to go through, lots and lots and lots of reflexes to continue our further development.
right.
So imagine you've got 200 dominoes stacked up around a room, and each one has to knock down the next domino for the line to continue.
Hmm.
Every so often, one of the dominoes just slips out of sync, but the line continues. It's the same as the development of your nervous system. We can have little glitches that occur for whatever reason, but those glitches, if they're unresolved, really are at the heart of behavior management, our development, our capability of learning, ADHD, autism, clumsiness, messy eating, separation anxiety.
Wow.
And I know now that my mum, having the news at 14 weeks that she was going to become quadriplegic and die,
Gosh.
sent her into orbit, as you can imagine. And I spent
Yeah.
6 months bathing in her adrenaline,
Yes.
which is the reason why I have a total hypervigilance, that my nervous system is always revving.
Mm.
And now I understand why I have ADHD.
Yeah.
Total sense. And
Yeah.
knowing this and understanding the cause, there's no blame, it's nobody's fault, it's just that is the fact.
Hmm.
I've always felt that I was weak and pathetic.
Oh gosh.
Now I understand there's a really good reason why I'm like this. I can totally forgive myself. It's totally changed my outlook. But again, if we understood there are things that can be done very, very early on to release retained reflexes, and if
Mm.
we started doing that from nursery onwards as a standard, we would help eliminate an awful lot of the problems that young people and then adults are going through.
That's fascinating because there's still that thought going out around of vaccines are causing all these problems, or not all of the problems, but certain, autism and things like that. And yet there are so many things, as you say, that we can do to unpick where all of these things have come from and find out how we can solve those solutions. So, what was that thing called again that you just said?
Retained primitive reflexes.
Retained primitive reflexes. That's the
And a
first.
lot of what a mum goes through when she's pregnant, she's having emotional responses all the time.
Mm,
If she has crisis in some form or another, or grief or trauma or something, again, it's not a blame thing, but it
mm,
may it may have an impact on the developing fetus about how their nervous system is wired, and whether how that's going to change how they cope with life later on. It could be something that's happened during birth. It may be something that's actually passed down the line generationally, which is also a major factor. Um,
mhm.
but it's just being really aware that how we're hardwired to cope with life these days starts from the point of conception, if not way before, actually,
Mm.
on a cellular level. And if we could address that, then we could really change, I think, generational mental health going forward.
Kind of have to start at the very beginning.
It's
And
almost like you have to educate people before they ever get pregnant,
yes, yeah. I
so they
mean, we know
understand.
things about play music to the unborn baby, but you don't necessarily take on board all the other things that can go on. And it makes sense if you're having hyperventilating about something because you're worried or anxious or stressed or afraid or whatever. It must have that impact on the baby as well. I wonder if it makes a difference if it's a natural birth or a cesarean birth.
All births have their complications. It could be, no, I mean, it could be anything.
Mm,
And it's not a blame about on the birth, but some situations during birth can have an implication.
yeah.
Um, but there are also ways of releasing these retained reflexes that are amazingly powerful.
Mm,
And I have referred many of my young clients and things, and adults too, and seen transformational change. And I've had the therapy myself, and a member of my family really transitioned what his life was like as a child. And I'm so grateful that we did that when he was very young, because life might have been very different now if we hadn't.
Mm.
But it is resolvable.
Good. Well, that's interesting. Is that something that you pass on to somebody else to help out with, or is that
Yeah,
something?
I mean, I've got a lot of expertise in the area, but
Yeah.
I don't do the therapy myself for others because others who are far really trained at the highest level, and I've got enough on my own plate, and I don't want to take that on. So I refer to others, and there are some amazing centres and individuals who are doing extraordinary work.
Wow. Talking of extraordinary work, last time we were having a chat, you were telling me about your dreams for the future, especially for Bert, taking him around with you. And there were three big goals in your life. I don't know if you want to share all of them or just one of them or none of them. What I loved is that when we have a member join Collaboration Global, I always say, what's your purpose? What's your mission? Some people are like, well, I'm not really sure. And, yeah, I want to do this. I want to help people. That's the general. I want to help people. And some people are like, wham, this is what I'm doing, and this is the reason why. And you were one of those people. And I said, so how can we help you? And then you told me of your three big dreams. And I was like, what? Yes. So happy that you got it so clear in your head what you're doing. Massive, massive dreams. But I have no doubt whatsoever these are all going to come true in the not too distant future. Just in case somebody's listening that might be able to help, might have an idea, might be able to contribute. Would you like to share one of them or all of them to us?
Oh, yes. I would love a film to be made of the book
Yeah.
because when you look at the impact of Inside Out and the of and I've gone completely blank.
Give me a clue.
The
It's
documentary that's come out, the about the
oh,
teenagers,
adolescence.
adolescents.
Yes.
This is the right time, and this book addresses the whole issue of teenage child mental health in a really interactive, really dynamic cliffhanger way.
Mm.
And so many people who've read it have said, oh, this should be a film, this should be a drama series. That
Yeah.
would be one. But I know so many of my clients can't read it because they have dyslexia, or, I know people who don't have eyesight, they can't read it, they can't access it. So I obviously want to do an audiobook, but I don't want to just have a one voice reading. I want people to really be immersed in the adventure of this book. So I want to create a documentary with teenage actors who've experienced mental health issues, who will be workshopped with the theatre director to play the roles in the book, and that we would record the book as a radio play
Mm.
rather than just a one voice reading. But I want it to be done as a documentary because there's so much around this, because I want to bring those teenagers together just as they are in the book, and to pull threads on their past and to understand what their mental health problems are and experiences have been, and
Mm.
to help them to understand themselves better and actually determine what they really want their lives to look like, and to show them how to step into that future and make it work. And I just think it has real jeopardy. Will it work as a radio show? What will happen with their explorations? And part of that journey, I think, would be for them each to have each of the eight characters in the book has a different monkey on the shoulder,
Mm.
baboons and orangutans and tiny spider monkeys. I would love us to actually create those monkeys with them, like Bert here,
Mm.
that they can take out into the public to invite conversation about mental health with everybody and anybody, and to build a social media platform around that, because Bert has elicited the most extraordinary conversations with strangers.
Mm.
Because I take him out with me and he sits in the hotel where I write, and it's been wonderful. And
Mm.
that's his purpose, really. That's one. I would love to do a one woman play about my 6 months inside, because that's a journey and I think could be really powerful in helping people to consider themselves and to understand mental health better, and just to get conversations going. And then I have an art installation, which is something that could involve everybody and anybody in the nation to be a part of it.
Wow.
And
That's
I hope would really open conversation and create a central point for people to go, where they will really feel the power of truth being told.
mm.
So it's clear as a bell. Again, I work with it in the night. I know exactly what it looks like. I know, I can feel it right now, the power of it. I actually talked about it when I did my book launch in London,
Mm.
and there were quite a lot of people in the audience who were moved to tears by the concept. So I
Mm.
know it has power.
Mm.
I'm just exploring now how to. I've never. I did art at university, but I've never done art installation. I need to find someone to hold my hand to make that happen. And interestingly, some very important people I've spoken to, everybody's response has been that should be in the Tate Modern.
I was just going to say the Turbine Hall. Absolutely.
So that's my target.
I went there many years ago now, where they had, as you walk through the hall, different languages. You could hear people whispering and talking as you walked around, and it was a very ethereal, spiritual emotion of people from around the world sharing their language. And some were very happy, and some were really scared, and some were, and it was, you could just feel the
Yeah.
emotions, even though you didn't necessarily know what the words were. It was an
Yeah.
incredible space. So we need to find the director of uh, the Tate Modern, and see if he'll book you in, and then we'll work
Yeah,
out how
yeah,
to do it. Once you've got your deadline, then you get then it'll all
absolutely, absolutely. And the documentary I want to get going as soon as possible because I want the book to be experienced by as many people as possible. And I think it, and I've spoken to a lot of teenagers about it, and I've
yeah.
got a line of them saying, I want to be a part, I want to be a part, you know. So I've just got to make it happen.
Yes. Okay. Well, I think Collaboration Global can be part of that. I'm already thinking of names that I can put you in touch with for directors, producers, and people like that. But if you're listening to this and you also know somebody that might be interested in being part of something very, very special, then please, what's the easiest way to get hold of you, Tana?
I think just to email me at tana@clearminds.org.
Clear.
Clearminds is my company that I started in 2015. Clearminds Education.
And is that hyphenated, or is that just all one word,
No,
clear?
it's just clearminds .org. Yeah.
And of course, if you come to a Collaboration Global session, we always the last Tuesday of the month. Quite often, you'll find Tana in that community as well. She is part of our gorgeous group, but most of the time, you can find her on LinkedIn as well. Tana Macpherson-Smith. That's fantastic. Tana, I have a feeling we're going to be doing part two. There is so much. I'm so excited to follow your journey and see where you go, and see if I can be a tiny part of bringing all of your dreams and ideas to fruition.
You.
If there's anybody out there that is struggling with their mental health, or knows someone that's struggling with their mental health, have you got any advice that you can give them to kind of help them just get through today and finish off, and think about tomorrow is another day?
The thing is, we are really what we think, and that sounds really harsh if you're in it, and I
Mm,
know that, but actually, the first step really is knowing that there are ways out of this. We have to take a lot of responsibility. We can't be fixed by other people. There's
mm,
lots of people to talk to, but actually, we have to do the work. But the work is eminently doable, and the results can be extraordinary. And actually, being really kind to yourself in the first instance and not blaming yourself for the way that you're feeling
mm,
is really important, and taking the time to breathe and slow down. I have to make myself to go and step out into nature at times because that's where I suddenly can feel the expanse and relaxation of my nervous system.
mm,
And that helps me to bring me back into kind of the now. And the other thing is, actually get acquainted with your monkey. There's thousands on Pinterest and everything. You just look on there and they've all got personalities, and literally go through until you find a picture and you go, that's my monkey. Give
mm,
it a name so you've got something visual on your shoulder, because actually putting your trauma and how you're feeling and your battles you've got on a day-to-day basis into this creature on your shoulder really helps to take it out of blame of yourself and feeling that you're just useless.
mm,
And also imagine a great big piece of gaffer tape. And every time those thoughts start coming in that spiral you down a rabbit hole somewhere, which, is a regular pattern, or was in the past for me, particularly at night time, because the
mm.
monkey's got your full attention then.
Yep.
Visualize putting a bit of gaffer tape over its mouth and saying, thank you, but not now. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
And change the direction of your thinking immediately. It's like catching it and moving in a different direction.
Yeah.
So I think getting acquainted with a monkey is probably one of the first and most powerful things you can do.
And if you're a 17-year-old lad and you're thinking, well, bloody monkey's ridiculous, I'm not going to go and get a monkey. Presumably,
That's,
whatever works for you, find something that is going
yeah,
to.
absolutely. It could be anything, but interestingly, that's exactly the conversation I had with a new client this week.
Yeah.
And that's exactly was his response, big sporty guy and all the rest of it. And I said, just try it.
Mm.
And within 3 hours at the end of our session, he sent through a message with a photograph and said, I found him. This is what he's called.
Excellent.
And look at the badass. attitude and stuff. And I thought, wow, you've engaged, you've done it, and now you've got something to work with. And it's clearly opened the doors for him now to take the next steps.
I was just going to say that it's just a jar. That door is just a jar for him to take those next steps. That's absolutely
Yeah.
brilliant. I love that. I mean, going back to talking about nighttime, when I go to sleep and I'm thinking, I'm very easily catastrophizing things, and it's not, I'm aware of it and I deal with it. But if I'm trying to sleep and they're going on and on and on, I just shh. And I don't necessarily choose another thing to think about because that's still keeping my mind active when I'm trying to get
Yeah.
to sleep. So every time something comes into my mind, shh, and then something else, that shopping list or that Christmas present or that whatever it is that I've got to shh. And it's that constant shh. And if you think about it, that's white noise that a lot of people play for their babies to help them to get to sleep.
Yeah.
Rain or that shh noise. And if you're just saying it to yourself, and then you're tired, then quite often sleep will come much quicker than
It
let.
works brilliantly for a lot of people. For me, that sound doesn't, because it still allows too much room for my brain. It's like popcorn. It just goes like this, and I'm catching new ideas. But what I have found recently that's worked really well, I do talk to Bert and go, I want you to listen. I've got birdsong all on a YouTube thing, and I just get birdsong, sometimes with piano music over the top, but
Nice.
the birdsong has to be the most prominent. And I've started playing that pretty much all night and just going, no, listen to the birdsong. So every time my thoughts go, it's like concentrate on what you can hear.
Yes.
And it has made such a difference. And I've battled with sleep forever.
Yeah.
And it's got to that point that my brain is now expecting that when it hears that, it knows it needs to calm down. So
Yeah.
it's finding that sound, that whatever it is that
Yeah.
allows, because I'm concentrating on the different birds and just the beauty of all the different sounds and the wonder of it,
Mm,
not going down a million rabbit holes
mm.
of thinking.
And that might be a piece of music or listening to a rainstorm on
Absolutely.
asking Alexa for. I mean, my other granddaughter, that's how she goes to sleep, a tropical rainstorm. And as you're sitting there sort of rocking her to sleep or just watching her in her cot and you're listening to that, it's like, oh yeah, I want to go to sleep. it just helps. So it's finding that magical thing. Tana, thank you so much for this conversation. I'm in awe of what you are doing, what you've already done, and what you intend to do as well, because it is a global thing that can have such a massive impact around the world. For everybody, not just some people, everybody is going to be able to do that. And so to be able to access it through a documentary or through an art installation or through a radio play or your one woman play, whatever it's going to be, get all of them done. You have to, and you will. And I can't wait to be in the audience at any of that and support you on all of those, because I think
Thank you.
this is needed in our world, and I'm so grateful that you're part of Collaboration Global to see how we can help to make these things happen.
So appreciate it and really appreciate the conversation. And yeah, yeah, we are on the journey together. Let's see where
Awesome.
it goes.
And give Bert a hug from me as well.
Totally will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.